Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook.
I think it gets kind of weird when you work for yourself and you're dealing with really large numbers and you don't want to kind of go to coffee with the school mums and say, I just turned down a $150,000 deal because it wasn't ethically aligned. It's not something you can chat about openly. So it's isolating a bit in that sense as well. And I think that's really important when you're working for yourself to be able to kind of have business therapy, because I don't want to seem insincere, but I need to kind of talk about it and work it out.
This might be one of those episodes that you listen to, and then at the end you might say, I'm so glad I listened to that, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we sometimes can't read the label when we're inside the bottle. And so you're going to hear from Sophie Walker today. She's been a guest on the show before, a couple hundred episodes ago, as her business and brand was continuing to grow. Now it's skyrocketed. But as a result of her brand at Australian Birth Stories skyrocketing, she's now met a number of new struggles and new challenges. And we're going to talk about a lot of those challenges that us as growing entrepreneurs will have, and that you, if you haven't gotten there yet, will come across. This is just a common pattern. Very rarely do we see a person perfectly lead into a business in a way that is perfectly balanced with their life. And so we're going to talk a lot about how many more hours she's working now than she was before, and that's not okay. But what are we doing to solve that problem? We're going to talk about some of the new opportunities that have come her way that she's now had to learn how to say no to, and more struggles of the same. So you'll hear me quote Biggie Smalls in this, and if you know what I'm talking about, you'll hear it, but I do call it out. So if you know, you know. And again, I'm just so grateful for you. We are in the new year already, 2023, and hopefully this inspires you to think more clearly about your why, and also how much you're working and for what reason. So stick around. Sophie Walker, Australian Birth Stories. Here she is.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He values time over money. However, he knows money also buys time. Pat Flynn.
With running your own business, legal questions always come with the territory. Like, can I use this contract or agreement? What do I do if a client doesn't pay? Am I even structured the right way for taxes? Instead of Googling your way through legal landmines, imagine having a law firm ready to address your business's legal needs without the sticker shock. That's what you get with Legal Shield's small business plans. Legal Shield helps entrepreneurs access real legal help on contract reviews, collection letters, business formation guidance, and even help navigating IRS audits. Members can schedule consultations, upload documents through the app, and get support from a provider law firm that knows small business laws in your state. Plus, consultations on taxes or trademarks help you stay ahead of potential problems. And if a client is late on a payment, Legal Shield steps in with professional collection letters so you can protect your hard-earned revenue, all for a fraction of the price of hiring a lawyer on your own. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of Pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Sophie, welcome back to the Smart Passive Income Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me again today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Pat. It's lovely to be on again.
And a lot has happened since the last time you were on. You were on in episode 432, which was a while back. And at the time, your very successful podcast, Australian Birth Stories, was succeeding very well. I mean, you were one of our star students inside of Power Up Podcasting, and I mention your name all the time. And at the time, you had 2.3 million downloads. Is the show doing now? How many downloads are you seeing, or how have you seen?
We just hit a massive milestone of 10 million downloads. So a bit of growth in between our last chat.
So that's incredible. First of all, congratulations to you. I know the show was taking off, and at the time, you were just starting to start with this, like the sponsorship deals and a lot of this stuff. And to remind people, this is what you do full time now, right? And like, what were you doing before the podcast? Because now you're a full time podcaster, essentially.
Yeah, and also my husband's just kind of retired, so it's just me now bringing in the money.
You retired your husband?
Yeah.
Incredible.
I'm not sure how long that will last, but he's technically retired. He's getting itchy feet already. Yeah, so prior to starting the podcast, I've got 3 kids, so I've kind of been working on and off in between having my boys. I've got 3 little boys, but I studied public health, so I've got a master's in public health, and I was working in cancer research, so interviewing women with histories of breast and ovarian cancer. So I worked in the research field and was kind of, always talking and interviewing people in that sense. And then after I had my second child, I was listening to a lot of podcasts about birth and consuming all that content. And it was just, podcasts were bigger in America, but they weren't a really big deal here. So I was listening to American and English podcasts, and I just joked with my friend at work, I should start an Australian version of this and use all the kind of references that we know and the hospitals that we know. And we still connect and laugh about those chats of how far it's come now. But so I just started. The very first thing I did was follow your YouTube of how to set up a podcast, and I just went step by step. And then I did Power Up Podcasting to kind of fine tune everything. And it started with just a handful of listeners, like family and friends, and now it's got 10 million downloads, and I've got over 5,000 applications of people wanting to come on and share their story. So it's come a long way in 6 years.
That is so cool. How soon after you started that show did you decide that this was like going to be it, that you went full time with it?
I didn't kind of take the leap of faith until I was earning the same amount I was making in my part-time work. So my mum was minding my boys a couple of days a week, and I was working in cancer research. And then I was like, actually I'm making about the same income doing the podcast as I am on the part-time job. So it felt safe to kind of make that shift then. I thought worst case scenario, I can pick up work again, but I sort of took that leap then when the money was evened out. And then it just gave me more time and more scope to kind of learn more and grow over the years.
How long till that point after you started?
I think it was probably 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So a good chunk of time. You actually dedicated a lot of time to build this audience. And where was the revenue coming from on the podcast to get to that point?
In the beginning, it was just podcast ads, and now I've got a lot of different revenue streams. But at that stage, it was just 60-second ads at the start of the show, and I was just cold emailing brands of products that I loved and used myself and said, I've got this podcast and I think I said, I've got 100 listeners each week, and for $80, do you want to be on the show? And I think maybe now thinking back, I think some of them might have thought, I think she's onto something here. We might want to get our name down early. But a lot of those brands that signed up and paid $80 are now paying like $4,000 for the same ad 6 years later. So yeah, they've been with me on that journey. But I just, cold email, just like, hey, and I've got no business experience or no PR or like nothing. I'm totally in research and health. So it was a little bit of luck, I think.
Maybe, yes. I mean, the right time for this topic for sure. And you saw an opportunity though, and you took it. And I think this is really inspirational again, because you would think that maybe something pretty niche is, and not just like women, but women giving birth, but specifically women in Australia giving birth in their story. And here it is, and it's become this mega success for you. So successful, in fact, that I know that there's particular organizations and health groups inside of Australia who there's something with relation to your show. Can you share sort of what happened there? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, a few years in, I got an email from the Australian College of Midwives, and they said, we love the show. We love what you're doing, giving these firsthand accounts of pregnancy and birth. And we've made it certified professional development for our midwives and student midwives to listen and get kind of consume as much experience as possible in their training. So it's recommended listening through most midwifery colleges. So yeah, people tell me that like, oh, my lecturer just told me I need to listen. I was like, wow. So it's incredible. So a big portion of my listeners are midwives and student midwives and healthcare professionals. And then the other kind of big portion are obviously pregnant women and their families. So yeah, that was a huge endorsement. And I kind of always wondered whether I might be a midwife. So it was lovely to have that kind of out of the blue.
That's so cool. I mean, the impact that you are making through not just opportunities like that, but just your show and everybody who listens. I mean, you're helping so many people and women especially who are going through birth. And I remember April going through birth with our first child, and how just obviously different that was, and scary, but also exciting, and all these emotions mixed up. And now people can listen to the show and hear firsthand experiences and feel more comfortable and get questions answered. And that's so beautiful. And the podcast is a perfect platform for that, because you really get into the story, you really get into the emotion of it all. And again, I just love that you stepped up to do that. Now, you went from $80 for a 60-second ad to now $4,000 and are charging what you're worth, and more listeners, of course. But how else are you generating revenue in the brand other than sponsored ads?
So about 3 years in, I started doing online courses, and that was with the help of a business coach and kind of seeing what was happening in the podcasting space. And yeah, that was a huge shift for me. I'd never kind of set up that kind of tech, and I thought, oh, how can I create a course when I'm not a midwife and I'm not an obstetrician or a nurse? But I've now got 5 online courses, and the way that I've set them up is I've sort of networked with some incredible people throughout the years, and so I interview obstetricians and midwives and experts in their field to cover these important topics, and then I guide the interviews, and then we combine that with workbooks and other elements and sort of pregnancy meditations and yoga, nidra work and things like that. So we've pulled it all together in that way. So they range from like an online birth class, which I was one of the very fortunate businesses who did very well during COVID, because similar to America, but in Australia, all the antenatal classes and pregnancy and birth classes were cancelled, and there was no face-to-face, and mine's purely online. So a lot of people could then just pick up my course and run with it. So I've kind of filled a gap there. And I think hospitals at that stage weren't kind of set up to run theirs online, because that's not what they normally do. So I was already set up and ready to go. So it worked in my favor in that sense. And it was very reassuring to know that these people weren't going into birth with nothing, because some people are like, oh, well, there's nothing. But I was able to provide a service then and support them during that time. And a lot of kind of face-to-face medical appointments weren't happening too. So I really kind of was holding the hands of a lot of vulnerable women during that time, which is, even strengthened the community even more.
That's incredible. So online courses, fantastic. And you have 5 now. How are you promoting those courses? Or even initially, how did you announce them and let people know that they were there? And what are the price points?
Through the podcast, I advertised those. But I also, before I actually launched the podcast, I started my Instagram account, which is a big arm of the business as well. So I've got 147,000 followers on Instagram. I share a lot of educational content on there with beautiful birth imagery to kind of be inspiring. We also share the darker sides of pregnancy and birth as well. So it's not all just lovely water births. There's everything on there. So I use Instagram kind of stories a lot to swipe up and check out the website. I've got probably about 10 free resources that are kind of freebie downloads to get people onto my email list. And my email list I really neglected, and you kind of hear it all the time, the money's in the list and make sure you get a list. And I really came late to setting up my email list, but I've now grown it to 35,000. So I feel like I'm making up for a bit of lost time there. And I'm very proud to say that I've got a 50% open rate. So I'm like, because I feel like people throw away their email list numbers, and I'm like, yeah, but how many people read that? Yeah, I do a weekly email that I spend a lot of time really curating that. So I use kind of, the podcast to advertise my own products, Instagram. I've got a Facebook account, and they're the main kind of channels, I think. So the courses range from like the pregnancy, the cheapest course at the moment is $29 Australian dollars. And that's a PDF download on how to set yourself up for breastfeeding and how to antenatal express. And then they go up to the bundle. If you get a few of the courses and the pregnancy guide, it's $349. So that's the highest point at the moment.
Very good. What tech are you using to deliver those courses?
I've just recorded them all myself through GarageBand and just at home with my mic, and I run them through Kajabi. I used to be on Teachable, but I shifted over to Kajabi. So I sell them off there, and then I've got a WordPress website that links everything together.
Now, I know this from my own experience and also coaching other students as well, is like when we start to see a lot of success, there's way more opportunities than we ever thought available, which is a good thing, right? There's a lot of people asking to work with you and partner with you, a lot more opportunity to create new things. But I also know that if we don't necessarily control or even have filters on, we could overwork ourselves. We could say yes to all the opportunities and get nothing done, or overcommit, or just the quality starts to go down. Have you experienced any of that kind of stuff now that you've grown kind of bigger now with new opportunities in front of you? And how have you been able to manage what to say yes to and what to say no to?
Yeah, that's been my kind of current challenge. Like, it's so exciting to grow, and obviously the revenue's increased exponentially and all of these things are exciting. Yeah, it's all these new business challenges. And I feel like I'm often saying to people, it's great to work for yourself, but sometimes I feel like, I just wish I had a boss who was making the call on this one. Because now I'm kind of making decisions on hundreds of thousands of dollars on ad deals, and I'm very conscious about who I work with and promote. I don't want to be kind of a whimsical influencer who's promoting one thing one day and something completely opposing the next day. And I'm really environmentally conscious, so I'm not just pumping out kind of nappy brands that I don't think are environmentally friendly. So there's a lot of things to consider, and I think that can kind of weigh you down or literally keep me up at night. Because it used to be I'd record the show, I'd do 1 episode a week, and now I do 2 episodes a week. But it used to be I'd kind of record the show, which would take maybe an hour. I'd edit it and put it up, which is maybe another hour, and then I'm done for the week. And now I work, probably now I work 40 hours a week, but I'm working on that. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd scale it right back to do kind of perhaps 2 or 3 days a week. But at the moment, I'm in a bit of a sprint phase, because I'm sure we'll get to it, but I've just written a book as well. So,
yay.
But it's funny, in the early days, you're emailing, hoping someone will email you back. And now I'm like, stop emailing me. I can't, I can't manage it. So it's funny what you wish for, really.
Yeah. It's so true that this happens. And they often have this phrase that goes around at this stage. It's like new levels, new devils, right? Or, to quote big Notorious B.I.G., mo money, mo problems, right?
Yeah,
sometimes.
Totally.
So, if you could go back, now that you know what you know, what would you tell yourself as you were starting to grow to maybe keep yourself more grounded during this time? I'm sure you're happy and, you're blessed and grateful and you've told me so, but we could always, hindsight's 20/20, but if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself to better prepare for the success that came your way?
I think it's kind of an old one, but it's around because it's true. It's really trust your gut. If it feels a little bit icky initially, then it probably will be. And I'm sure you've experienced that with clients. People are a bit difficult in the booking in, and then they're like painful right to the end, and you're like happy to see the end of that contract. So going with your gut, and I've turned down some huge opportunities as well. I think it gets kind of weird when you work for yourself and you're dealing with really large numbers, and you don't want to kind of go to coffee with the school mums and say, oh, I just turned down a $150,000 deal because it wasn't ethically aligned. It's not something you can chat about openly. So it's isolating a bit in that sense as well. And you and I have done some coaching together, and I've got another business coach as well. And I think that's really important when you're working for yourself, to be able to kind of have business therapy where it's a safe space to talk about all these things openly, and you're not going to offend someone who's currently, finding it hard to pay their mortgage, or, because I don't want to seem insincere, but I need to kind of talk about it and work it out. I think, when you start to have a sudden growth, then more people notice you. And then you and I have talked about a lot of networks wanting me to join, and they're offering like thousands of dollars to sign up, and we can provide you all these things and great big kind of 10-page PDFs on how amazing they are and how we be a lovely team. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but you're taking 50% of my revenue that I've worked really hard to grow over the last 6 years. So making those decisions has been really hard. And as you say, I feel incredibly blessed. I feel like I do pick up and drop off of my boys. We walk to school. So I still am connected with kind of mum life, and my 3-year-old's still not toilet trained. So we're in the thick of things with parenting, and I'm able to work and do my business. So I'm grateful for that. But it's definitely, bigger problems, bigger questions and challenges as you grow.
May I ask you about, you had mentioned, having conversations with the other mums who might be in different parts of their life, or, they're not necessarily entrepreneurs and don't understand the same language, but does it ever get weird? Like, I know that, sometimes when I'm with, some high school friends and they start asking questions, like I do feel strange, and I don't want to come across as somebody who, it's such an odd thing when you've gotten to this side of building, because when you're starting out, I think everybody can resonate with having an idea, trying things, grinding, hustling, making that work. But when you're on the other side of it and there's new sets of problems, you don't, like you said, necessarily want to bring those problems in because it's different now. How do you manage that? And how does that?
Okay, my kids have just interrupted. Sorry.
Hey, no, this is real life.
Dad's taking you to school. I'm at the bottom of the garden, but they found me.
I love it. Oh, you're in your new space, right? You had built us.
But I need to lock the door.
Talk about that really quick, because that is so cool. Because Sophie and I have been working together with some coaching and stuff, and she said that she's building like her own space to do her work, which I guess the kids can sometimes come in, like we just saw. But like, what is this space? And then we'll get back to the other question.
So we've got a beautiful backyard, a great big elm tree in the back of our yard. So I've just built a studio, which is, I don't know, do you work in meters? It's 3 meters by 2.5. So it's 10 meters squared.
Okay.
Sorry, you have to convert that.
Okay. Times 3, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, and I bought it more or less as like a kind of like a kit home. So I bought it offline as a garden studio, and it's insulated, although it needs a little bit more insulation. Yeah, but I've got that at the bottom of the garden. So I was recording in my car, in the carport for years. The car is a good alternative if you're caught out, I think.
This is true. Very true.
But I can't get my kids to be quiet. So it's easier if they're home I'm doing it at an unusual hour to fit in with a new mum. Yeah, I was doing it in the car, but now I've got the office, and now that my husband's not working, I can just come down and record my ads and do my thing, usually uninterrupted. So yeah, it's really lovely. I'm just kind of still setting that up.
So initially you were recording these podcast interviews in your car?
Yeah, and my physio said, you really need to stop doing that.
Oh, yeah, right. It's probably not the best for posture and ergonomics, but so did you have like your laptop in there with you, and you were connected on like Zoom or something? Or?
Yep, I just hold my mic as well. Yeah, up until recently, I do them on Zoom now. Up until, the first kind of 4 or 5 years, I used Skype. So I was just Skyping people on my laptop.
Yeah, we were all using Skype in the beginning.
Yeah, I still keep it super basic. Even though the audience has grown, I still just do it very basic. But I now have... I think last time we spoke, I didn't really have a team. Now I've got at least 6 people that work for me. So I'm supported in that sense. And that's a whole nother challenge too. Yeah, then you've got the responsibility of bringing in money for other people, and you're managing HR type issues and things. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. But let's go back to the question about personal, getting back with your friends, and just kind of like you're an entrepreneur now, you're successful. Is it weird at all? Like, how do you approach outside of business life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a joke that I'm the famous friend and famous amongst pregnant women. So we were just having coffee outside school the other day and a woman came over and just kind of fell over herself because she saw me and said, oh my goodness, oh, you've changed my life. Thank you so much for all the things you do. And the other mums were like all looking at their feet, and then she went away and they're like, oh, our famous friend. And so it was funny in that sense. But we don't kind of talk about numbers, but it's interesting in like a lot of PR outreach I'm doing at the moment. I'm kind of pitching to a variety of different sources, and some of them are business articles and some of them disclose what I made last year. And then I'm like, oh, I hope none of my close friends read that article because it really goes into depth about my numbers.
It's interesting.
Which I'm proud of, but it's just, you have to be careful about who you share how well things are going. And it's brought up things within the family as well. Like, yeah, I don't think they'll listen to this episode, but it's kind of like, it's always assumed that I'll be paying for dinner and stuff. So yeah, it's different dynamics. Then, oh, Sophie's doing well, so she'll, and then they'll order a few extra cocktails. But
so interesting.
different challenges there. And I'm, again, like, feel very grateful, and I love that I can do these things, but it's a real shift in gears of kind of like, oh, okay, this is where we're at now. And money brings out weird things for people. I'm learning.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And, the business audience that's listening right now, many of them are just at the beginning of their journey. I mean, this is really inspirational to go from car recording an interview, and then 2 years later, here you are now, and you've built your own studio in your backyard, which is really amazing. But you've also, like you said, kept it simple. You're staying basic with like all the things that you're doing just to kind of, like, what is the goal now for you? What is the purpose here? Like, I'm sure in the beginning it was, like with me, it was just kind of like, well, I just want to support my family and survive, right? And then for me, I was really drawn to, personally, the audience who I could help, who had yet to discover me. And I wanted to just to have them understand that this is possible. Let me show you. What's driving you right now? And ultimately, what is the goal that's deciding you whether you say yes to certain things or no to certain things?
Yeah, it's hard because I'm wanting to grow and wanting to expand and to kind of help more women. But I also am aware that I've kind of got I don't know if balance is the right word, but I'm working a lot more than I was, and I've got like extra pressures. And one of the girls who works for me, who does a lot of copyright, she's like, what's on for you? And I've got back-to-back meetings. And I said, I'm having meetings about meetings. Like, I've got a meeting for today about tomorrow's meeting. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, what? So now I'm really in the process of like, okay, I want to set it up for growth and expand and help more people, but I personally want to step back a bit. So it's about finding out, making some big calls. We've got some great ideas and about what to do next year. And then I'm like, do I really want to be working that hard next year, or is that something that can wait? And how can I kind of bring somebody else up to speed to manage that whole section? Because I think you and I were talking with my youngest, he'll be in school in 2 years. And now that my husband's home, he's like, well, he's a primary school teacher, so he's really into kind of kid stuff anyway, but they're going to the aquarium and the zoo, and I'm like working back-to-back meetings. So I'm like, oh, I'm working for myself, but I haven't got flexibility at the moment. So I am aware I'm in an intense part of like launching the book and things. So I hope that next year I'm able to kind of scale things back and outsource appropriately. So I've got more family time and just freedom to kind of go and have lunch with friends. I feel like I've kind of neglected friendships and things because I'm working full on.
Yeah. It's interesting because as we're building our businesses, we're like, wow, we're getting these opportunities that we've never had before. We have to say yes to all of them. We have to do all of them, or else they might go away, because we've never experienced that and we don't necessarily believe in ourselves, or at least I didn't. And over time, you begin to learn that you can do a lot of things that you didn't think you could do before, and you can have more room to say no. And I've never heard any entrepreneur perfectly lead into the perfect ideal life. It's always been like hard struggle, and then boom, things are like, and they go too far. And then you either burn out, or like you're conscious about it and you're like, okay, this is a season. Next season's going to be better. I just got to get through this, and we're going to make it work. This book's going to be out there. That's going to do a lot of things for you and automate a lot of the top of funnel stuff for you. And then I can come back to where I want to be. It's almost like dating, right? You date people to discover what you like and also what you don't like. And you have to like date yourself a little bit, I guess, when it comes to, well, what parts of the business do you enjoy and which ones do you not? I know a lot of like web designers, for example, who love design. So they started a design company to help others, and they were initially doing the work themselves, but then they want to grow and scale and help more people. So they hire a team, and all of a sudden they're managing people all day and they're in meetings and they're no longer doing design work, right? And it's either you change your goals or you say, you know what, I want to get back to design. So I'm going to, slow it down. I'm not going to try to get 1 million clients. I'm just going to work with 1 or 2, and I'm just going to live this happy, beautiful life. And I think that's like, you're close to where that's going, right? But this book is definitely, I know from launching books myself, and I have one coming, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So where are you at now? When's it coming out? What is the book about? And like, tell us about it.
Yeah. So the book's called The Complete Australian Guide to Pregnancy and Birth. And I just got my first copy this week. So I'll show you, Pat. There you go.
No way. How does that feel?
It's really wild. And I kind of have looked at other people looking at their book and like, yeah, you've worked on it for a year, so you knew what it was going to be like. But there is something in like feeling the weight of it and the texture, and actually the color's not quite how I thought it would be and stuff. So yeah, there is something really amazing about kind of holding it, and it's all your work compressed into one lovely, beautiful bound book. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I'm not a woman. I'm not going to be pregnant, most likely, and I'm not in Australia, but I would love a signed copy if you had one available.
I don't think I've got one for you, sorry. But no, just kidding. I'll send you one.
That'll be the most interesting book on my shelf, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
people will be like, what is this bright pink book you've got, Pat?
Like, who is she? What's her name? No, I'm just kidding.
It's a beautiful guide, and probably a lot of your listeners would have been familiar if they're in that space of life. They would have listened to, they would have purchased What to Expect When You're Expecting. So it's a pregnancy guide that takes you from like the first trimester right through to birthing and all your options and all the things that unfold. So yeah, it's been a lot of work, and it's been edited by like 5 different people, and obstetricians and midwives have medically checked it, to make sure everything's accurate and all the referencing. So it's interesting how you get to where you are, because I've now drawn on a lot of my public health skills and kind of looking at research and things like that. So it's drawn in different things. And then I've co-written it with one of my colleagues who does a lot of writing for Australian Birth Stories. We've written it together, which is, another dynamic. But you and I have shared too, I think, books are a whole new thing in themselves, but working with a publisher and a team and not having full control is a whole different thing as well. And even with the numbers, they're like, pre-sale's going well. And I'm like, I can't log in and check. I don't have access to that. And normally, like if I'm doing a sale, I'll just be refreshing Kajabi, counting the numbers. So
every second.
Yeah,
right?
I'm like, I just have to wait for a weekly update. So yeah, that's been a shift. But I think for my first book, I don't think I could have pulled this off on my own. There were a lot of different moving parts, and I'm grateful for kind of outsourcing it to a publishing house.
When does it come out? I know we do have some Australian listeners. Big shout out to you. Perhaps this is one you could pick up. When is it going to be available and where?
Yeah, I think when this episode comes out, it will be on bookshelves in Australia. So it comes out the 31st of January. The ebooks will be available at that time too. So people should be able to pick up an e-copy if they want to, if they're living in other parts of the world. And it does, even though it's called The Complete Australian Guide and it's got references to Australian hospitals, it still translates. Like it's still the same pregnancy journey. So yeah, it can be used in any part of the world.
Amazing. Well, congratulations to you on that. And we'll have links in the show notes and such. I wanted to finish off here by talking about your team, because this is another big thing that, like we talked about, as you're growing, as you're trying to continue to scale, but also want to scale back your own time, you have to hire people in some way, shape, or form. Who do you have on your team, and are they like full-time? Are they contracted? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so everyone is actually contracted. So I don't pay, a fixed kind of salary and super and things like that. So everyone invoices me monthly, although they're about the same amount each month, but that's kind of how we all operate. So I've got Jody, who I co-wrote the book with, who does writes up my show notes. She writes up my journal articles for the website. She helps me with the newsletter. She does all of that content and some Instagram copy as well. Then I've got a team who do my Facebook ads and We dabble in a few different things, Pinterest ads, and I think we're looking into Reddit. I'm not sure. I don't go on Reddit, but they're like, that's a new area we're exploring. So I just let them they've got a retainer and they kind of play around with different concepts. And they also manage my SEO. So they're like, you need to do a journal article that hits these topics to kind of just help the website. And we've just rebuilt the website. Yeah, so I've got a publicist who works just for me. And so she helps me get outreach and get seen in different articles. And then I'm going to have a book publisher. So that's another new dynamic of trying to get them to become friends and not step on each other's toes and kind of share our kind of vision for how we're going to promote the book. I've got a podcast editor who I haven't actually met. He lives like 15 minutes from here, but we've never met. So we've got a shared Google Drive.
Wait.
Yeah, it's funny. And he's also...
I thought you were going to say they live in the Philippines or something,
No.
but like 15 minutes away.
Well, he was due to COVID, he was stuck in Canada for a long time. So he was doing it from Canada, but he's back now. But we just have a shared Google Drive and I just drop the files in there and he edits them and sends them back. And he's also I think he's in his 20s and hasn't had kids and he listens to these in-depth birth stories each week. So I think that's funny. He doesn't comment. He's like, it's in the drive.
That is funny.
Yeah, so they're the kind of main people. I hope I haven't missed anyone off. Yeah, they're the main people that work for me probably. And then my sister's a photographer, so she shoots a lot of stuff for me. And yeah, so I get her on board for headshots and house shots and kid shots and things like that.
What's the hardest part about now having a team versus doing everything yourself?
Just coordinating everyone, I think. And it's funny, before when you do things your own way, you don't even know your method. And now doing things like Loom, just stopping and thinking of your processes and then relaying that. And then, I didn't mention, I've got a VA who helps out now 10 hours a week, who does a bit of email management. I wish she could do 40 hours a week, but she's got a few other things on her plate. I'm trying to poach Jess off you, but I'll see how I go.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Oh, she's amazing. I'm like, oh, that was so slick. Yep, I need that system. Yeah, but I'm enjoying Emily's really fresh, and she's like, oh, why don't we try doing it this way? And I'm like, that's a great idea. Go with that. Let's do that. So handing over some of the responsibility and just recognizing where your strengths are. It's like, okay, that's not the best use of my time, and you enjoy doing that really kind of menial data task. How about you do that, and I'll just focus on the creative content.
Love it. That's so great. Some of the challenges with managing can be, micromanaging. I know a lot of people who hire and then they actually spend more time doing things with those hires versus what they initially hired them for, which was to get time back. Have you ever caught yourself, or do you find that you're trying to maybe get too close and work too closely with them and not giving them space, or have you found it easy to kind of just let go and let them do their thing?
I found it easy, but I feel like it's interesting in my line of work. Everybody who works for me is we've all got the same goal of trying to help women and trying to educate women, and we all see it as a positive source. So I feel like my staff go above and beyond, and I'm like, oh, should you be charging more for that? Or we talk a lot. I feel like my lines blur in that we're friends and colleagues, and I'm like, are you just doing that because we're friends, or you should really bill me for that? My publicist is really good at, she's like, let me just drop that file into Canva and rework it for you. And I'm like, that's not really in your job description. Maybe you should bill me for that. She's like, no, it's fine.
Oh, that's nice.
So I think that's probably some blurred lines, but yeah, so I've become really good friends. So I think we kind of chat a lot. We probably chat too much. I like a good chat and blur the lines of working and friendship. So maybe that's a challenge where I need to kind of just be a bit clear. I don't want to overwork them.
How are you communicating with them? Are you using any special tools to do that?
No, it's funny. I know you're always send me a Slack message. And I'm like, oh, I don't really use Slack. We tried to use Asana. I was trying to use Asana with my new VA, and then I found that a bit clunky. So now we email each other and we're in the same inbox. So that's pretty funny. So I just emailed. So I've got Sophie at Australian Birth Stories and she's on Hello at Australian Birth Stories. So if I want to talk to Emily, I just email myself more or less and do a rundown. So it's probably not the most productive method, but it's working. And I'll just be like, okay, we've got a lot of shared Google Drives. That's kind of just how we manage things. But otherwise I do a lot of talking on the phone.
Do you have any tips for anybody listening who is about ready to hire? We don't necessarily need to talk about who to hire first or any of that stuff. We've talked about that here before, and there's great books out there like Virtual Freedom with Chris Ducker. But when it comes to hiring for the person who's about to do it for the first time, do you have any tips or strategies for, it sounds like you found some really good people. How did you find them?
Well, I've never kind of put out an ad to look for anyone. I've only taken on board people that friends have recommended. So I've only gone with like a trusted, vetted source. So I've been really fortunate in that sense. I think that's been my technique, which has really helped. And I think that's why we're aligned, because other people are like, oh, I know this great girl who's really interested in that, and she's looking for 10 hours a week. That's kind of how I connected with Emily. Or Emily had applied for another friend's job, and she said, I checked all her CVs, all her references and everything, and she was great. And I wish I could have taken her on, but we went with something else. So yeah, I've been very fortunate, because I've heard some, pretty negative stories, and I feel secure. It's also an unusual thing, giving someone your passwords and letting them see, your Stripe account and your revenue and stuff. So it's really important to feel to trust them and feel connected. And I think I've landed on my feet by going through really well referred kind of people that were well suited to the task.
That makes sense. Final question here, Sophie. And again, thank you for your time today. This has been incredible. Actually, 2 questions. Where can people go to listen to the show? And, we talked about the book, but like anything you want to plug to find you and follow you, where should they go?
Yeah, just go to AustralianBirthStories.com and you can access everything there. But Australian Birth Stories, the podcast, is on every good podcast app.
Perfect. And then finally, I'd love for you to speak to those who are here, who are listening, who are still within those first couple of years, like still in the car, interviewing on the podcast, not quite yet have quit their job or made enough money to do that. What words of encouragement can you offer them to just keep going and find their voice, and then hopefully see some amazing opportunities ahead?
Yeah, just kind of back yourself and think about why you're doing it. And I think like a lot of the time when I was studying under you, Pat, it was like you were talking about the riches are in the niches and follow the knitting groups on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if you're still using those analogies, but I just followed them and I did them. And I used to listen to this podcast religiously and think, oh man, imagine if, I hit $1 million or I had an online course and stuff. And if you just keep true to why you started it and don't get excited by the bells and whistles on the side, just think, I'm doing this because of this and these are my goals, and just keep reminding yourself of that. I've stayed very much kind of my recipe and the way I do my podcast has not changed since the beginning. And it's like, why change something that's working? So I've just trusted myself and put one foot in front of the other. And it's not always easy, but it's definitely paid off for me. So yeah, that's my advice.
Well done, Sophie. This has been an amazing update. Again, you can go and listen to the other episode that we did with Sophie, 432, to get even more background and kind of just get a timestamp back then and compare it to the timestamp now. And I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point to see how the book did and what else might be going on. And I'm just honestly super proud of you, Sophie, and for what you're doing. And it's very clear your why, and you've executed very well. So congratulations.
Oh, thanks so much.
All right, that was an interview with Sophie Walker. Again, her brand, Australian Birth Stories, and her new book now and her podcast. You should go check it out. And she's just an incredible voice from somebody who's still keeping it basic, not using all the tools that she could probably use, and just has her own style and this amazing team now as a result. And it's just fascinating to see how she's gotten here. And I'm excited because this year and the next, hopefully, we're going to be working on reducing those hours and having her spend more time with family, because she deserves it, and so do you. So make sure you subscribe so you listen to more great episodes like this coming your way. And this is session 653. So if you want to get the show notes and the links to this episode or mentioned in this episode, head on over to smartpassiveincome.com/session 653. Again, smartpassiveincome.com/session 653. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And I look forward to serving you in the next episodes. Cheers, peace out, and as always, Team Flynn for the win. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at smartpassiveincome.com. I'm your host, Pat Flynn. Our senior producer is David Grabowski. Our series producer is Paul Gregoris. And our executive producer is Matt Garland. Sound editing by Duncan Brown. The Smart Passive Income Podcast is a production of SPI Media. We'll catch you in the next session. Hey there, quick pause here because I have to tell you about a tool that completely transforms the podcasting workflow, Riverside. I get it. I used to juggle multiple platforms just to record one podcast episode. It was exhausting. Zoom for recording, Audacity for editing, and then a bunch of different apps just to create clips and social posts. I've tried other ones as well. They were okay, but they were clunky and super time-consuming. That's where Riverside has massively helped. I can do it all in one place: recording, editing, repurposing, one platform, one streamlined flow. I just log in, record with my guests no matter where they are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video all in one. And get this, even if your Wi-Fi glitches, Riverside records locally on your device so everything sounds and looks crystal clear. But here's my favorite feature: Riverside's AI editing tool. You can remove silences and filler words with just one click. Hours saved. With Magic Clips, Riverside also automatically finds the best moments and turns them into ready-to-post videos for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, all without the extra editing. So if you're looking to level up your production quality and simplify your workflow, go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART. It's built by creators for creators, and I think you're going to love it. I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI.